everyone. Welcome back to Find Your Resilience with myself, Vanessa Gellin. And on today's episode, I have the lovely Fabiola. She's a previous coworker of mine at the pediatric hospital that I used to work at. And Fabiola, if you could like to introduce yourself to the listeners, and it looks like you have a lovely pet right here.
I
If you could
do.
introduce your fur friend as well, that would be lovely.
So this is Gucci. Say hi, Gucci. Oh, okay. We're just gonna yawn on camera. All right. My name is Fabiola. Like she said, we are former coworkers. I'm currently a behavioral mental health tech. I'm also a photographer. I have my own photography business. I've been doing that for a couple of years now. And from time to time, I also work with a nonprofit. So I wear many hats.
Oh, wow. You got to tell me more about that nonprofit and all that. That sounds great. And your own business.
Yeah.
But this podcast is about resiliency. So I like to open the floor to those who are willing to be vulnerable and authentic and share, insight on resiliency. So Fabiola, the floor is all yours. Feel free to share anything that made you resilient. I know you had a change in your I guess your studies. At one point you were doing nursing, PA. I know there's been like, family stuff going on. So go ahead, my dear.
Yeah, so I always joke around with people and I always say, if it's not one thing, it's another. I feel like have always been dealt like these really hard cards throughout my life. I've had a great life, but there's just definitely been some moments where I'm just like, why? But yeah, so like you mentioned, back in 2016, I was in nursing school for a little bit and I was doing okay. I was doing okay. It was definitely a challenge because for the first 2 years of undergrad, I was in a school where, like, at most, there was like maybe like 24 students in the classroom. And so then when I was in this nursing program, it was like 180 students. And so I was like, whoa, like, this is a big change. I didn't really know anyone. Professors never really knew my name. And so it was a very big change. And so I was doing okay. I wasn't doing great, but I was doing okay. And then about towards the end of the semester, my first semester, I was in a three-car accident. It was really bad. My car was totaled. Everyone's car was totaled in that accident. I was actually on my way to class and I was really excited because I was going to be early. We were going to watch a movie. It was going to be a really easy day. And so it was a really bad accident. We all had to go to the hospital. It was a whole thing. And so because of that, I was on painkillers. I had to go to therapy several times throughout the week. And it was a lot on top of, keeping up with my studies. And so unfortunately, I did not pass a very important class. And so I had to basically write a letter to the program saying, hey, like, please give me a second chance. Like, this is what happened. Like, please, like, give me a second chance to come back to the program. Unfortunately, I was denied re-entry, I guess. And so they told me I would have to reapply in a couple of years. And so that was just kind of like a very big thing that I guess I was very unfamiliar with, like the feeling of failure or, something not working out for me. Growing up, I was a straight A student, or if I didn't have straight A's, I had A's and B's. I was involved in clubs and volunteering and this and that. And so when that happened, I was very much taken back and I was like, oh my goodness, like my life is over. And so I think for about a week, I just kind of sat in my room, just I think grieving that because it was just a very new feeling to me. And so after all, I was like, okay, no, like we have to figure out a game plan. Let's figure it out. And so I actually decided to go back to the undergrad school that I was at, the smaller one. And I pursued a bachelor's degree in exercise science. And it wasn't until my last year, so my senior year, that I learned about the PA profession. And I was like, oh, I really like this. I like the idea of being a provider. I like the idea of not being attached to one specialty. Like if you want to do a specialty for maybe like a couple of years and then maybe have an interest in a different specialty, you can do that. And so one thing I definitely do know about myself is I always like to learn something new. If you asked me growing up, what do you want to be when you grow up? I always had a different answer. I want to be a pilot. I want to be a counselor. I want to be a lawyer. I want to be in the Navy. It was always something different. And so I'm definitely glad that I learned about that profession just before I graduated. And so I'm currently applying to PA programs in the hopes that I become a PA and get to work in different specialties.
Woo woo. And you will get in, with the grace of God. But I'm so sorry you had to go through that car accident and that the school wasn't willing to let you in. That's crazy.
Yeah.
If you don't mind me asking, are you comfortable talking about the car accident or like what
Yeah.
happened? Was it anyone okay? I know you guys went to the hospital.
Yeah.
Like what was the
So
severity of that?
it was pretty bad. So I was on my way to school and I was driving. And so I was driving in one direction and there was this other car coming in the opposite direction, like on the other flow of traffic, the other side of traffic. And I noticed that she was kind of swerving a little bit, and I was just like, okay, no big deal. Maybe she's on her phone, maybe got a little distracted because she went back into her lane. I was like, all right, we're cool. Everything's fine. And I remember there was actually like a smaller car next to me, and I was just like, okay, like I'm just gonna drive a little slower. And so then out of nowhere, she just like swerved out of her lane and like hit me. And so then I spun out of control. And so when she hit me, it was almost like she bounced off of my car and then hit another car. And so I spun, I don't know how many times I spun, but I did spin. I'm actually surprised I didn't hit the car that was next to me, like the one that I had mentioned. But I spun out, she hit the other car. There was no way for me to get out of the car, so I had to crawl out from the passenger side, like the window. So I had to crawl out of that, and that was my first time ever being in an accident. It was my first car. I didn't know what to do. I remember just standing in the middle of the road, crying. Traffic's not moving, and I just remember seeing the car that had hit me, like there was just a lot of smoke coming out of it. And so I was freaking out. I was like, oh my gosh, no one's getting out of these cars. What if like someone passed away? Like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. And I'm just there paralyzed, crying, not moving, breathing really heavy. And I remember this white like working truck that was full of like construction workers. They were Hispanic. They stopped and they were like, "Estás bien?" And that means, "Are you okay?" in Spanish. And I was just like, "No." And they're like, "It's okay, breathe. I think someone already called an ambulance. We have to go to work, but like, are you okay?" And I was just like, "No, but I'm okay here." And they're like, "Okay, um, just be careful." And I was like, "Yeah." And there was actually like a house next to that road, and this lady came out rushing in like her bathrobe, and she was like, "Oh my gosh, honey, are you okay?" Blah blah blah. And I was like, no, I just crashed and no one's getting out of the car. And so eventually she walked me over to like the sidewalk just so I wasn't in the middle of the road anymore. And paramedics arrived. A fire truck actually had to be called because the guy that was the second car to get hit, his leg was actually stuck in the door. So they had to cut the door open to get him out. And then the lady that hit us, she was overall okay. She was diabetic, if I remember correctly, and so um, she was overall okay. Um, and so I had to ride the ambulance with her, and she never apologized or said sorry or like this happened or blah blah blah. Like there was just no communication there. And it actually turned out that her insurance had expired 6 days before that accident. Yeah, so then I had to start all like the whole legal process after that, on top of taking care of myself, on top of figuring out, what am I going to do now that I'm not like in nursing school anymore.
My goodness, Fabiola, that
Yeah.
sounds so traumatic. How did you cope after that? One, you're probably freaking out, like, oh my God, I need to go back to school, but I can't because of your physical health.
Mm-hmm.
Like, did you get any therapy at some point regarding that? Or how did you bounce back?
So I didn't actually go to therapy. I think like the biggest person that I relied on was like my mom. She was like, okay, we're just gonna figure this out. And so there were a couple nights where I would go downstairs and I would cry to her, and I'm like, why is this happening to me? Why me? Like, I was just on my way to school doing what I was supposed to do. Why me? Like, I should be a nurse in 2 years. Like, why now it almost feels like I'm starting from zero. Like, why me? And so there was definitely a lot of long nights where I had to go to her just because I felt like such a failure. And like I said, it was just a very unfamiliar feeling because all my life I was doing everything right. I was, going to school. I had perfect attendance. I was getting the good grades, volunteering, doing clubs, this and that. I was doing everything right. So it definitely felt a lot. Um, but when I did go back to the previous school that I had attended before I started the nursing program, I actually made a bunch of new friends and I guess rekindled like friendships that I had left behind. And so they were a big support. Um, when I switched, I guess, my majors to exercise science, I had really awesome professors that were really supportive and um, they really opened doors for me. At one point, I had interest in doing occupational therapy, and I remember I had this professor that was like, "Oh my goodness, I think I know someone from a program. I think she can like come and talk to the class. If this is something that you want to learn about, like I can make this happen." I was like, "Yes." So I definitely had the support of professors and the new friends I've made.
I do believe when one door closes, another door opens. So it seems like, you were able to find light from the situation and it led you to a different path. Um,
Mm-hmm.
life is good at that. And I guess what made you transition from nursing to PA now?
So I definitely always had this interest in, I guess, like the human body. Like it's just so fascinating to me that there's just so many different moving parts. And so when I was taking anatomy, that was something I like was really fascinated about. I was just like, this is really cool. Anytime we had lab, I was just like, ooh, what are we dissecting today? So I definitely had an interest in the human body, and I was like, okay, well, I guess I'll pursue something in healthcare. And I've always been known to be a person that cares a lot. I'm a very empathetic person. I care. I care about people feeling good. And so I was like, okay, I definitely want to stick to something in healthcare. And so when I learned about the PA profession, like I said, I really liked the whole idea of like not being tied down to one specialty because I like to learn. I get excited to learn. And so when I learned that that's something you can do in the profession, I was like, oh, this is perfect. Because if I want to do dermatology for a couple of years, I can do that. If I want to work in oncology for a couple of years, I can do that. If I want to work in pediatrics for a couple of years, I can do that. And so that's something that like excites me about the profession, and I guess the main reason why I want to do PA.
That's cool. Do you know what specialty you want to start off with?
Uh, Dermatology. Uh,
Oh,
I have this, I guess, interest in learning more about like skin cancer and knowing how we can talk more about it. I'm Mexican American. My parents are both from Mexico. They immigrated here when they were like teenagers. There's a train. Um,
it's
but
okay.
my dad works in construction, and so he's always out in the sun, always out in the heat. And my mom's always been the person to tell him, like, put on sunscreen, make sure you're in layers, make sure you're covering up. And a lot of my family, like my uncles, cousins, also work in construction, and I feel like it's just not a conversation that is happening, I guess, within my family of like, hey, like, are you like making sure you're getting yourself tested? Are you making sure you're checking out for any weird spots or any weird marks? Are you putting on sunscreen? And so I think it's definitely something that sparked an interest, like, oh, like I want to learn more about that, but I also want to be more of like an advocate within like the Latino community and have these conversations and I guess, you know, find a way to make it, I guess, more accessible to get these tests done and, help out the community.
Speaking about dermatology, I was like, oh, I need to find one since I moved. But that's awesome. Sounds like you have a great future ahead of you, Fabiola.
Yes.
Um, and I know when one thing doesn't work, you'll find something else out. But touching on the subject of, this badnik culture of yours, I kind of wanted to delve into mental health. I know you
Yes.
said you're a behavioral mental health tech. And I know for me, I mean, I speak about this on my podcast, how like in the Caribbean household, it's taboo to speak about mental health. I don't know, do you find that to be the same in the Hispanic culture as far as talking about feelings, emotions, getting therapy?
Um, A little bit. Thankfully, I feel like I've been blessed to be in a family that maybe they don't really understand like what depression or anxiety or XYZ looks like, but they support it. They're like, you know what? If you need me, I am here. I don't know what it means, but I'm here. So I think I've been very blessed to be in that kind of position where I do have that support. With other family members, mm, they might need to sit down sometimes and explain a few things. There was this one situation where, or I guess this one period in my life where I was dealing with depression, and I went to this small family gathering and I was saying hi to everyone. And there was this one particular family member that I was saying hi to, and the first thing she told me was, "You have some really dark circles." She was just like, "I tell my daughter all the time that she needs to be going to sleep early and blah, 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 and taking care of herself." And I just remember looking and I was like, okay. I was like, this woman has no idea that I'm dealing with this stuff, that I've been crying all day, that it took a lot for me to just even like come to this gathering. She has no idea. And so I no longer talk to this family member, but I that was definitely like an eye-opening experience. I was like, okay, not everyone gets it or not everyone thinks about these other things that could be happening in someone's life. And so I've definitely have never been like ashamed or felt any like embarrassment to like talk about mental health. I think it's something that we should be talking about more. I'll bring it up to my friends like, hey, I can't make it to the thing because I have my therapy session in an hour. Or, oh, my therapist told me about this one coping mechanism and it's been working out for me. Do you want to know more about it? So I try to like weave it into my conversations and normalize it. Um, sorry, I'm gonna grab my charger. Um, but I definitely try my best to normalize it because not a lot of people talk about it, and I feel like we should be talking about it. Well,
I
thank you, G.
agree. And it sounds like you're getting help. You said you're in therapy, correct?
Yes. I've been going to therapy for a couple of months now. She's great. I do virtual therapy. It's a first for me, and it's been going really well.
Okay, that's good. I mean, you might not feel comfortable sharing this, but like, what made you want to do therapy?
What made me want to do therapy?
Or I guess
Um,
go
yeah,
into therapy. Was there a reason?
yes. So last year, I believe it was last year, I went through a pretty bad breakup. My relationship of 4 and a half something years ended. It didn't end on good terms. It was just not good. It was very toxic. Um, Lots of narcissistic behaviors. It was not good. And so I was more anxious. I was depressed. And there was this one point where I couldn't get out of bed. I didn't want to eat. I didn't even want to shower. I didn't want to get out. I didn't want to do anything. I was just tied to my bed. And so it got really bad. And so after about maybe a month of that going on, I told myself, no, like I have to get help. And so I started seeing a therapist, and it's been the best thing ever.
Oh, good for you. I'm glad
Yeah.
you're getting the help you need. Do you like your therapist?
Yeah, she's awesome. And she's
Good.
also Hispanic. And so she
Okay,
relates to me in like a lot of different ways about understanding, like, I guess the little quirks of being Hispanic.
that's good. Um, are you currently, I mean, I don't, you don't have to share this if you don't want to, but like, are you on any medicine for like your mood?
So I'm not on any medicine. I've never felt the need that I need to get on medicine. I feel like just therapy alone has been really helpful and really beneficial to me. And I've definitely learned really good coping mechanisms that when I do feel anxious or when I do maybe like start feeling some type of way, I'm like, no, let's use our coping mechanisms and let's do things that make us happy and that we like. And so just therapy at the moment.
Fabiola, have you ever considered taking any medications for your mood?
I have not. Well, I have okay, considered it, but I have found it to be just enough to be good. I have though thought about getting on medications for ADHD. It is a conversation I had with my previous therapist who just said, well, let me run you through in that category, right? And so she asked me a couple questions. She was like, well, you were off by one to really be considered someone with ADHD. And I was like, okay. And she was just like, do you want me to refer you out to a psychiatrist, to look further into this, or, what do you want to do? And I was like, I'll just, like we won't go that route. I'll just, maybe I'm just bad at like time management. Blah, blah, blah. Like we'll figure out something. But now I feel like it's gotten a little worse, and so it is something that I've been meaning to bring up with my therapist and say, hey, I think I might need a referral. So that's the only medication I've been really considering. But as far as like the depression and anxiety side of that, I feel like therapy has been really helpful.
Okay, that's good. Medication is not always, first line. It's therapy. So I'm glad you're doing therapy. And if you feel like at any time, therapy is no longer helping, then medication could be an adjunct. But yeah, for ADHD, there are, people that do testing and stuff like that. So hopefully get a good referral.
Yeah.
But Fabiola, this was great. Do you have any other stories of resiliency you'd like to share? I know you mentioned to me in the past about like family health issues. I don't know if that's something you are willing to share.
Yeah, definitely. So, 2019, July 11th of 2019, my mom was diagnosed with a brain tumor. And so being the oldest one, or being the oldest of three, I really had to put my big girl pants on and say, we are going to figure this out because mom's going to have to get a surgery, and that's going to, that's going to be a whole process, and she's not going to be able to, be, I guess, quote unquote, like one of the heads of the household. Like I have to, put on my big girl pants on. And so she got her surgery done about a month after that. And so it took her quite a while to get back on her feet and start walking, start cooking, start driving, doing all of that. But when she did have the surgery, it was just kind of like of a shock. I was like, oh my goodness, I've never seen my mom in this kind of state before. And I remember I was, driving up and down to and from the house and the hospital, but also going to school because I was just starting a semester. Well, it was my last semester of undergrad. So it was a lot. It was also making sure that my brother was catching his bus in the mornings because he was just starting middle school, I believe. And so it was a lot, making sure bills were taken care of. And I remember this one night, I was grabbing dinner for myself. I was in a Chick-fil-A parking lot, and out of nowhere, I just had a panic attack. I could not breathe. I just felt like I had zero control, and I was like, oh my goodness. And I just started like hyperventilating and crying really bad, and I could not stop. And I tried reaching out to a couple people, but I think it was like 10 at night, so not a lot of people were like available. And thankfully, one person answered, and it was this girl that I had just met in undergrad, and she was like, where are you? I will drive to you right now. And so she drove to me in the middle of the night, and we just sat in the car, and I just cried and let it out. And she was like, I think you just had a panic attack. And I was like, I've never had one before. And so I think that was just like a very pivotal moment, where I was like, okay, I need to be taking care of myself because this is a lot. Um, and so me and my sister were sharing the responsibilities of taking care of my mom and taking care of my family. But I was also trying to find opportunities for me to go out on walks, getting food that I like. Um, I also got my dog Gucci, so he was also a big help in helping with like cope with all these things that I had going on. Um, and so it was a lot. It was a lot, and um, yeah.
Wow, that's a lot of baggage. Oh my goodness. How old were you when all this happened?
So this was in 2019. It's now 2023. 22, 23.
Okay, so I mean you're young,
So
still young. How's your mom doing now?
she's doing a lot better. She now goes to Zumba every
Oh,
day.
good.
Doing really good. She does have just like minor things here and there where like maybe she'll get like a little dizzy from time to time, or she doesn't really like driving late at night. She does have like this ringing in her ear that comes out of nowhere. But I think they're all just very things compared to having like a big old tumor in her brain. So I'm definitely blessed that, she's doing a lot better because she was using a cane when she walked out of the hospital. She was in a wheelchair, in physical therapy. I had to give her baths like in bed. Like it was just 0 to 100 over the past couple.
Mhm. And then this panic attack, I'm glad you had a friend that was able to, help you with your emotions. Um, I guess what do you think caused this panic attack? I know you're dealing with a lot of stress.
I think it was just the overwhelming amount of stress of I just started school. My mom just had surgery. My brother just started school as well. My sister had actually graduated a couple months before all that. She graduated in the spring. And so she was definitely left with the decision of, okay, should I be looking for work opportunities, or should I stay at home and help my mom out while my sister is finishing up her. And so I definitely felt like I had that weight on my shoulders as well because she really did take on that responsibility of staying at home while I was at school when she could have been, looking for work. Um, and so I just definitely felt all of that, all of it. And my body was just like, we are going to let it out. We let it out on a Chick-fil-A parking lot.
And that's a-okay.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you have to release all those emotions. I guess when life is lifing and you're dealing with a lot of stress, what are some things that help you get through the day? Like,
Um,
what are your coping strategies, I guess?
yeah. So when life is life in, I like to go on walks with my dog. I find nature to be very therapeutic. So anytime I'm outside, I feel like 1,000 times better. But if I'm at work, I will try to take my lunch outside. Big nature kind of person. So if I can, I'll try to take my lunch outside. I won't take the elevators. I'll take the stairs. Exercise has also been a really big thing. So I'll just take the stairs, even if it's 4 floors. I will take the stairs. And then, getting myself food that I like. And then if I have time after work, I'll go to the driving range and hit a couple golf balls. I've learned that I really like golf. So um,
Okay.
a really cool thing to do as of lately.
Yeah, golf. I think I need. Well, I'm in West Palm now, so there's nothing but country clubs and golf places everywhere. So I need to learn. But I guess for those who are struggling and don't see light at the end of the tunnel, what's some advice you would tell them?
Oh, so I remember I saw a quote or a video or something on Instagram, and it is something that I tell myself all the time. If whatever's in front of you just like too much, like it's just a lot, just look at that one step. That's it. Just look at that one step in front of you. And once you've taken that step, you can choose to take the following step. And if that's just too much, at least you took one step that day. Feeling things to do. And I'm like, okay, whoa, whoa, whoa. Let's just focus on this one thing. Maybe it's a small thing. Maybe it's just taking the trash out or, doing chores. Let's just do that and see how you feel afterwards. And usually when you do something small, you feel like you accomplish something and then you want to do another thing. And so I feel like that's something that's definitely worked out for me. Um, there's another quote that I tell myself often. Let me see if I can phrase it exactly how it's supposed to be. But the past is the past and the future is the future. You're in the present and you should think of it as a gift. It's a present. And so you should be, yeah. So you should definitely try to live in the present. It's a present. The past is in the past. You're not going to have a future. Live in what you are in right now. Uh, and what
I
else?
like this one. I
There's just
like both
a
of
lot of different
them.
things that have helped me. And I think like the one about the stuff was something that's definitely helped me. Because it does feel overwhelming sometimes. No one really teaches you how to be an adult.
Right.
And it's a lot. And so like, I just get one thing done. We can figure out the rest. It's doable, and it's okay to ask for help. Like I said, I'm a huge advocate for like going to therapy and stuff like that. Or you have to let out to a friend in the middle of the night and talk to them. Do it. There is no shame in that. I always have my ringer on. I tell my friends, hey, if you need me, please do not hesitate to call or text me. I would rather listen to you now than you feeling 1,000 times worse a week later, or something else more severe. And so I always make sure I tell my friends, I'm here for y'all. I'm here for you. And thankfully, I feel like I have a good friend group that also reciprocates that, like, hey, Fabi, if you're not feeling good, you can reach out to us. And I think it's definitely important to find your people, because that is your tribe, and it'll help you to ask for help. Life is hard. Life be lifing, and
Tell me about it. And it can be so overwhelming, if you're like just thinking about all the problems that you have, it's like you're just gonna crash. So I love what you said, basically one step at a time. Um, but this was great, Fabiola. You are so resilient. This is why you're on Find Your Resilience. I know your future is bright and you just have a lot ahead going for you. And tell us about your business too. I guess, how can people find you, like, regarding photography?
Yeah, so I've been doing photography for a couple years. At first, it just kind of started with I just want a camera. I want a camera, and I remember growing up, my mom would buy me like those little like film cameras from like Kmart. I don't know if people still remember what Kmart is, but it's kind of like Walmart. But my mom would always get me like those like cheap little film cameras, and I would just always take pictures around the house, like of a lamp or something. But I always just enjoyed having little cameras. And then in high school, anyone like that wanted like their pictures taken, like I would take their phone and be like, "Yes, I got you. Let's try this angle. Let's try that." So I've always had this interest in photography, and so I remember, I don't remember what year it was, but I was saving my money, and on Black Friday there was a really nice camera that was going to be on sale, and I was like, okay, I think I'm going to do it, and so I bought it, and I was just taking pictures of like trees, animals, and just random things. And then I remember this friend of mine that I went to high school with, she reached out. She was like, hey, I'm pregnant and I want some maternity pictures taken. Can you take them for me? And I was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I've never taken pictures of a person before. Like, I don't know. And she was just like, well, you can use me as practice to pay you. I was like, oh, okay. So that moment forward, I kind of started a business without wanting to start a business. It just kind of happened on its own. I love it. I've met so many really awesome people, and I've learned about so many different like culture and practices. I love meeting people. So it's been really cool. It's taken me to like really cool places. But you can find my photography page on Instagram. It's a very interesting name, but it is Photos Flores. So it is FOTOSX Flores, FLRES. And I do just like lifestyle, maternity, graduation, branding, headshots, a little bit of everything.
Oh, that's awesome. Oh my goodness. You're a jack of all trades. You're doing it all. With a smile on your face. You're so cute. Oh, well, guys, this was Fabiola. I hope you've learned something from her today. She's a very, very resilient. It was a pleasure, guys. Take care, and thank you for listening to Find Your Resilience.
Thank you for having me.